Okay, so this panel will be about branding, storytelling, and marketing. So who's excited to hear about that? Awesome. Okay, so we've got 3 experts in the house, and I need you to do that free stage thing that Emmanuel was doing. So we're going to first call up Quason Matthews. And then Tosin Ogwe. And then Marvin Brown. Awesome. Welcome, guys. As I ask questions, by the way, just ensure that this is facing that way. Technical things. Okay, awesome. So we're talking branding, marketing, and storytelling. But before we get into that, please could you just go around and let the people know who you are, what you do?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Quason Matthews. I'm a director of photography, DOP, content creator, run a video production company, and in a nutshell, video production, anything video production, that's me. I get hired to work with brands, to direct, help capture short films, documentaries, that kind of stuff, and I make my own content as well.
Amazing. Tosin?
Hi everyone, Tosin Ogwe, pardon my nerves, but who I am. What's your question? What do I do?
Yeah, what do you do?
Okay, what do I do? I work in government comms, so comms and marketing as a videographer for UK government, for a specific department. So my job is to follow the big ends of the country around on their visits to any part of the world that they could be in. Prior to that, I ran my own production company called Christian Andrews, which I closed down 3 years ago, just went cold turkey. And on top of that, I am also a partially qualified therapist. So, yeah.
Amazing. And Marvin?
Hello, I'm Marvin, or Marv Brown for short. I am a filmmaker and also a content strategist. Many people might know me from my wedding films. I do cinematic wedding films, but I also build brands and work with a lot of content creators and personal brands and help give them strategy and create content for them. And yeah, I love creating content.
Amazing. Awesome. Give them a round of applause. So you guys all have very successful brands. What are some of the key components that you would say is non-negotiable when it comes to building a brand?
Well, since this is a Christian event, before I start, I'll say there's 2 perspectives. There's the spiritual and obviously the natural, right? So personally, it starts with yourself. How I identify as a creator. So everything that comes from me naturally is going to be something creative, right? My job is to produce and to push things out into the world. So when I think of a brand, whether it's my personal brand or a brand I'm going to make, it has to represent a certain standard. It has to represent not necessarily certain values, but it just has to have a standard. Yeah. And it's influenced by my personal standards and my relationship with God. So that's not always at the forefront. So it's not necessarily always, this is a Christian company. Yeah. However, the founder is a believer. So naturally, those things will shine through with the brand. So what I say is you have to live the brand, because that is how other people will perceive it. So if you have a brand and it's not conducting business in a certain way or keeping a certain standard, that's what people are going to receive from it. So that's why I always say, even when you start a business, the business is a separate entity, but at the same time, it's not a separate entity. Yeah. Everything that you are is going to shine through that. So it's important to have your personal standards high, because it's going to reflect. If you're someone who's slack, it's going to reflect in your business, it's going to reflect in your brand. So it's important personally that you also hold yourself accountable. So when you're doing business and you're building your brand, it just flows because you're living it anyway. So when you transfer that to your brand, it's just going to reflect as well. That's what I would say.
Before you pass on, could you give an example of one of the standards, just so that people can actually see it work in practice?
Like
What's one of the standards that underpin your brand that, yes, you might not say it, on the tin, but it informs your decisions?
Yeah, so because I'm a Christian, I believe I'm here to serve. So when I'm working with a client or someone's hired me on a project, my mindset isn't how much they're paying me. My mindset isn't how much money I'm going to get from them. My mindset is how can I best serve them? So I ask a lot of questions. Someone might say, hey, I need you to create this video. I'm like, all right, what do you want to achieve with this video? Why are you making this video? And then I get to know them a bit more as well. Like, what's the goal of this video? We don't even talk about money at the beginning or any of that. I'm trying to, do I even want to work with you? Forevermore. So before all of that, you have to understand you're a servant. A business is there to serve. It's not there to make money. It is there to make money, but it's there to serve ultimately.
Yeah.
And if you're not serving well, you're not going to make money.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? So that's how I look at it.
Yeah, awesome, yeah. Do you want to share some of your non-negotiables for building a brand?
Yeah, sure. So I promise I'm not cheating. I just written my notes down, that's all. So for me, authenticity. Did I say that right? Authenticity, yeah.
You got it.
That's very important to me, to still show up as my authentic self in my brand. And so, I don't really have a brand that I'm pushing at the minute. In terms of within the creative space, I'm not, Well, that's a, yeah, okay.
I mean, you had a brand.
I
And
did,
it was
yeah.
very
And
successful.
when I ran the brand, excellence was one of it.
Okay.
Quality, and integrity was the biggest one for us. So, for example, let's say I've quoted a client, and I didn't do my due diligence, and I then turned up to the event, and it was going to. It turned out something else, right? I'm still going to do what I say that I was going to do, even if it's no longer beneficial to me. Integrity is important, that I deliver what I promised. So, and in that, coupled with integrity, comes with compassion. That's important for me, and to show love. Like we've had clients in the past, thank God I've delivered from that world, but insulted, disrespect. I'm not fighting you back. We just be like, it's okay, auntie. And yeah, that's one of the big things that I should be talking to you guys. I do apologize. I should be talking to the audience, but yeah. Over to you, Marvin.
Cool. I heard Emmanuel talking about 3 C's earlier, so I'm going to bring my own 3 C's. What comes to mind is conviction, clarity, and consistency. So I'll explain it. So conviction it anchors your brand. So that's the why for everything you do. And then the clarity is how you communicate your brand, like what is you do and who is it for. And then consistency, when someone's consistent, you trust them. So I know everyone has heard the cliche say, consistency is key, but I'm going to give you a new one. Consistency builds trust. So that's those are the 3 things I would say that's important to focus on when starting out a brand.
Awesome. I love that none of them spoke about logos or colors or anything. It's all about your conduct and how you behave. So that's something to definitely take away. What is one branding mistake that you see creatives make? And feel free to share a mistake that maybe you've made and how you overcame it.
Hey, Quason, I'm a photographer. Here's my Instagram. Go on their Instagram. I don't see nothing to do with photography.
Oh, wow.
That's it. That's the first mistake. You say you are X. Where is your work? I need to go see it. I want to find out. Why are you giving me your Instagram? You told me you're a photographer, and I can't see nothing.
Yeah.
That is a big mistake. Me personally, that's a mistake. If you want to have a personal page, have a separate personal page. I don't have 2 pages. I mix a little bit of personal, mainly business, 10% business. No, 90% business, 10% personal. But if you come on my page, you know what I do. You can see very clearly. Some people don't have time to be digging into all that stuff. I've met you. I do it, so I know other people do it. It's like, oh, here's my page. I go on it. I don't see nothing to do with it. So instantly, you might be a photographer, but where is your work? Maybe you've got a website instead. Give me the website then. Don't direct. Do you get what I mean? Because people don't have time, so they've given you a moment to check you out. They kind of have to know ASAP. And whereas I might see a guy, he might not even be that great, but I can see what he does. I'd probably trust him more. Do you know what I mean? So I say from a branding standpoint, like I said before, you embody your brand, especially personal brands. So it has to be consistent across the board.
Love that. So for me, it's the common mistakes that I'll speak from a personal perspective is people pleasing. It's a natural thing for me, you know. Because of this side of me that is very compassionate, you know, wants to show love, I say yes to everything, and then that leads to burnout, not just of me, burnout of the team, burnout of the household, kids burning out, they don't see mom, they don't see, like, the husband don't see wife, so it's just people pleasing, trying to please the client, you know. So for me, well, it sounds bad, I just quit, I didn't quit.
I pivoted.
Yes. I didn't just quit. So quit isn't the word. It took me 5 years to walk away from the business. So it wasn't like an overnight, I quit. It was a process. So for me, I realized that people pleasing led to pushing me to the absolute wall for me to make a decision that I should have made quicker. You know, it dragged into 5 years until my world said no more, kind of thing. So I would say just paying attention to what your flaws are and what your weaknesses are as an individual, because that can easily influence back into your business. So just pay attention to that.
I think I had an answer quite similar to Quason in terms of, you know, a lot of people declare what they do, but they don't demonstrate. You can go to their page and, you know, you don't see what they do, or they might scream that they're Christian, but in terms of you don't see the fruits, or you don't see it expressed through their work. But I think another point I would make, which just came to mind, is the fear of people and the fear of opinions. I would say I think that's a strong one that a lot of people deal with in terms of not being independent of the opinions of others. And I think someone mentioned it earlier about like not making social media an idol and having to step away. And I kind of resonated with that because there's times I've had breaks, but it's because when I realized that you don't want the opinions of others to control you, then you're giving others the power. And so you're now controlled by what people think, and that kind of limits you in terms of how God can use you, because now if he's giving you a vision to do certain things, it now becomes about you rather than the other people you're called to serve. So it's like you start to get in your own way of being a vessel and being used, and that just becomes all about ego and less about the people you're trying to reach. So yeah, the fear of a common mistake, I would say, is people not being independent of the opinions of others.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. And I think one of you mentioned about authenticity in your brand, and how is it that you would best build that? How would you teach the people to build that? So it's about being true to the brand.
Yeah, so let me speak through the lens of when I ran CA, it was all about the quality. So how did we stay authentic? So it's interesting because obviously we were in the same space, and there was others as well. And we all looked at each other's work, and there is that maybe silent competition where it's kind of like, oh, their work looked better, or they're using the latest technology. Right. So I always, and the team, because I had such a big team, I used to get like loud noises from them of, oh, why are we still using these tools? Let's try something new. And I'm thinking, hold on a minute. Why does our clients come to us and why didn't they go to them? So we don't want to copy the style of someone else. We can learn from others, but what is the CA brand signature? It was all about the, bright colors, the clarity in picture, the attention to details in terms of how, like, the use of close-ups, like building intimacy through the shots. And maybe I had an advantage as well, being a woman in a man's space. I kind of saw things differently. But I slowly introduced tools that would enhance the work and also support, the authenticity of the brand. But it was so easy to just say, yeah, let's do what Marv is doing. Because it looks sick. It's got 1 million views. Let's do that. But actually, that wasn't who CA was, So that's kind of like how I ran the team, just making sure they understood the vision and I understood the vision as well. So yeah.
So basically finding your unique selling point and just never moving away from it.
You can, I would say, enhance, not necessarily never moving. It's what makes CA brand.
Okay, fine.
And how can we enhance it based on feedback, right?
Yeah.
Without moving away from what it is and why people came to us in the first place. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And how would someone make a brand memorable?
Values, it's not logo.
Yeah.
It's your values, isn't it? Again, for me, with the CA brand, it was memorable because of the choice of, these are feedbacks we received in the choice of music, style of storytelling. So, and we just repeat and rinse. That's what we did for the 15 years. Obviously, go with the time as well. Talk to you guys. Go with the time. So as social media evolved, we evolved with it, but also reading comments, paying attention to why people are, keep coming back was very important. I don't think I answered that question, but yeah, my brain stopped now, so.
So yeah, just making the brand memorable. Does anyone else have anything to chip in?
Well, most times when you think about a brand, there's a feeling associated with it. So when you think of Nike, you think of sport, you think of, when you think of Netflix, you think of chilling out, killing time. There's always a feeling associated to a brand. Or even when people hear your name, like you hear someone's name, like, you know what I'm saying? Like someone's, that's a brand.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, you're going to invite Dave? And, no, Dave, not Dave, because there's a feeling associated with that. So there's feelings associated to brands, there's feelings associated to your name when someone mentions your name somewhere, right? So that's it. So by you doing a great job, being professional, over time, because brands take time to build, so over time, with consistency, as Marvin said, these are all things that aren't individual, they work together. So over time, with consistency, the brand starts to have a thing with it, It's like trust, reliability, endurance, whatever your brand is, it starts to give up. And then, of course, things like logos, colors, etc., etc. But I think the most powerful thing is brands have feelings attached. When you see a car advert, they're not selling the car, they're selling the experience, the feeling. Perfume, I never understood perfume adverts, but they're not selling the smell. You can't smell it through the TV. You're experiencing the feeling. So it's all about feeling when it comes to brands in particular.
Is there anything you guys do that would specifically evoke that feeling? So when you're building the brand, what is it that you intentionally do to bring about that feeling?
When I'm working with certain content creators, I always get them to focus on, or start with their story, because I love storytelling, and I love it because when someone, there's a saying, let me start from here. There's a saying that many people know is that people won't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. And if you can make someone feel something, then you've won them. So I think unintentionally, when I started out with my wedding film business, how I kind of got people to kind of well, I didn't intentionally do it, but what people gravitated towards is that I was newly married, I had a wife, and we was working together, and people even gravitated to that sort of story. So I found that a lot of people were booking me from seeing my own wedding film and just loving the connection I have and love I have with my wife, and they wanted to be a part of that. So very similar, exactly what Quason said in terms of brands. There's a feeling that you're left with and an experience, and it. Yeah, I think I'll leave it as that. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. That's a really good example. So yeah, let's move on to storytelling. Did you have something to add to that? Yeah, go for it.
I wanted to push a little bit
Yeah.
and actually introduce you guys. You might have, you might not. I've heard of something called the brand archetype. Heard of it? No? Okay. So basically, it's a deep understanding of a universal language of, so it's like archetypes, yeah? So you can Google it, of branding, of how humans, motivations and desire. So of human motivation and desire. So I'm branding my therapeutic practice, and something that we've sat on for months is what is the brand's archetype, so I've pushed further to say, okay, when people think about that brand, what does it smell like? What, not just what you see and what you feel, what's the brand's scent, so what do you hear about it? So like you both have said, so when you think about all these senses, the 8 senses, when you think about your brand, think 8 senses as well. I just wanted to just add a little bit of that, if that's okay.
You said 8 or 5?
No, there's 8.
8.
Yeah,
What's the other 3?
I'll Google it for you. I don't know it off the back of my head. But
I'm intrigued.
yeah, so there's 8 senses. So we all know the smell, taste. So we have sight, which is the visual, the hearing, auditory, smell, I can't say this one, olfactory, yeah, taste, gusto, you get it, touch, and then you have vestibular, which is basically balance, yeah, and then you have, I can't say the next word, anyway, it's movement, that's what it is, yeah, movement, and then there's the last one, interoception. We use that word a lot. That's a sense, so basically like sensations your body gives. So when you think about somatic experiences, etc., so you walk into a room and like your body's feeling, oh, why do I suddenly feel a chill? What's that all about?
Like a discernment
There
type
you
of
go.
thing. Okay, yeah.
So yeah.
Okay, awesome. We learned something new. Okay, great. Okay, so storytelling. Let's move on to storytelling. Quason, you do quite a lot of storytelling in your content, in your like reels on Instagram and things like that. If someone's like, I've not necessarily never told a story, because we all tell stories in some way or form, but to actually formalize it and make it as part of their brand, what advice would you give them?
Is this like a brand story or making a piece of content that tells a story?
You could do it from both perspectives.
So, depending on the brand you're building, brand story, personal brands, obviously your story.
Yeah.
Some brands have the story of their heritage. So like old brands would be like, established in 1970 something, cultivated by blah, blah, blah. They might have like a family history, stuff like that. So there's that angle. And then I guess, again, it goes back to you. I always say it goes back to the individual. If you're making a brand today, it goes back to you as an individual, your personal values, your personal story, and also what you want the brand to represent. People love story, and story pushes everything. You heard about the KFC story. What's his name? Colonel Sanders?
Yeah.
He was like old when he properly established KFC, etc. People know that story. There's loads of other brand stories as well. So sometimes if you're a founder of a brand, that story can come from you. Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, all these guys, Richard Branson, you see their story, do you know what I mean? So to be honest, people buy Teslas not because it's an electric car, they buy it because Elon Musk's brand is like genius, futuristic, subconsciously. When you buy Apple phone, iPhone, simplistic, sleek, clean, great camera. So they all have a story, do you know what I mean? So But you can find that in yourself. If you've got a story, you see it. Like you might start a hair care brand. I was having issues with my hair, and then I decided to da 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 da. Do you know what I mean? So you can find it in your own life. And usually, if you're starting a brand that solves someone else's problem, sometimes that problem you experienced it.
Yeah.
So then you can express that as well. But then obviously there's the other side when you're telling a story through content. Simple storytelling, beginning, middle, end. Where's this going? So even like a wedding video, beginning, middle, end. Bride's getting ready, groom's getting ready, people are arriving, they get to the altar, they do their vows, they ride off into the sunset. Beginning, middle, end, So it's that kind of thing. So it's really simple when you think about it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to overcomplicate anything. But yeah.
But how do you make it interesting so that people actually watch it? Because what I've noticed on social media is that people will make a story out of anything, which is good. It could literally be going to Aldi to do your shopping, and people will make a really, really good reel out of it. So how do I make that journey of going to do my shopping actually exciting?
So this is where you implement the tactics that Tochi was talking about earlier, where understanding the platform you're on, understanding how people consume that content, learning about hooks, and also you need to have a sense for the pace. So you don't want something that's too long or drawn out. You also, because I edit as well, when you're editing, I always say you have to feel the cut, as in like you can feel when it's a good time to change, and you can feel when it's dragging out too long. We all have these instincts, even when you go somewhere like, this is long, and then I need to change, or so we all have these skills, but it's just being aware of what they are and trusting your instincts. So knowing the platform you're on, knowing the audience as well and how it's consumed, that should inform how you produce that content. So if you're on Instagram, you don't want a 10-minute video on Instagram.
Yeah, that actually leads perfectly onto my next question. With different platforms, I guess like Instagram is 60 to 90 seconds. So how do you choose what stays in, what stays out? Like how do you ensure that the complete story that is actually compelling fits into that 90-second time frame?
Talking about stories, I think what makes is it a compelling story you're asking?
Yeah.
What makes a compelling story is taking your audience on a journey, I would say. But also, don't just tell me information, but tell me why I should care. Tell me why it matters. And there's as Quason mentioned, it starts with your hook. If for example you can't hook them from the first 3 seconds, then you've lost them, because people, their attention span has gone down, and if you don't grasp people and you make them care, they've already scrolled. But what other things you can do is create tension, create contrast. You can and have a payoff at the end. So have a resolution at the end. So you can when you're taking them on a journey, you're saving some information to later on, so that it's all about retention. So that it's really I understand what I resonate with what Quason was saying about feeling the edit, because as you edit, you actually have to edit for retention. If you're an editor, you have to kind of respect people's time, and what you're saying about knowing what to cut out. If something is dragging, it can be trimmed. You can't. I've learned over time that you can't be precious with content, and I think that just comes with maturing. When I started out, you kind of get attached to content. Oh, this was a great shot. But then over time, you just realize this doesn't matter. This doesn't add. If it doesn't add to the story, it can go. And so you have to look at, okay, cool. What's adding to the story? Everything has to be intentional and motivated. So if something's it's for a reason, not just there to just look good or just for some pizzazz. So when you think like that, and you think about trying that when someone watches this, there needs to be no places where they drop off, where it's constantly engaging and constantly keeping them engaged, then you kind of able to make decisions in terms of what stays and what can go, and just not be precious about it.
That's really good advice. Okay, so moving on to marketing. Let's say someone has a really strong message. They've got their brand, they're ready to go, but they have no audience, so they're brand new. What would you say that they should do to start to market this message that they have?
I don't know if I'm the most qualified to answer that question, but I'm just feeding off my own experience. Just putting content out. Forget all the other stuff. Put stuff out. I've got younger cousins who are like, oh yeah, I want to get into media. It's like, are you putting stuff out? Because it's like in the gym, you do reps. Just put it out. As you're putting it out, pay attention, and you'll get better over time. Yeah. When I started, I wasn't great at filming. I wasn't great at editing, but I just kept putting it. I didn't even put it out. I just made it. And that's the other thing. Sometimes you don't even need to put it out. Just make it for yourself. The most important thing is to get the reps in and stay in the game as long as possible. Over time, you will get better. If you are on the sidelines thinking about it for too long, you're not making progress. Yeah. Sometimes done is better than perfect, as they say, right? So I still critique my work to this day. I've been doing it for 16 plus years. I still critique my work. I still like, I could have done that better. That's always going to be there. Yeah. But if you're not in the game, you're not gaining experience. So, someone asked a question about, you're thinking about this one piece of content. It's not that deep. In my head, I was like, it's not that deep. No one's going to care anyway. When you look back on that video, you won't even like it. But just put it out. Because that's how you, in anything, it's about repetition, about getting. So don't overcomplicate it. You could be starting from zero, put the content out consistently, as often as possible. While doing it, employ the tactics, knowing the platform you're on, knowing how to edit, get hooks, all these things. None of that matters if you're not putting the content out. It goes back to you putting the work out. So I had this thing where I was like, it's like your farmer, he's got a bag of seeds, right? He can stand there all day and worry about how much fruit he's gonna get. If he doesn't put the seed in the ground, it's irrelevant. So it's the same, you've got all these ideas, just throw it out there. You don't know which one's gonna stick. Don't think that you're a genius, you're not. You don't know, you're just trying, you gotta say, but God's favor, he will guide you, do you know what I mean? So don't overthink it, because that analysis paralysis, and the enemy will use that to delay you. So when you find yourself in that blockage, just say, you know what, I'm gonna jump anyway. There's nothing to lose, no one's gonna die, it's not rocket science, we're not doing anything that's crazy here, we're just putting out content. So that's what I would say, if you're starting from zero, just put the content out, let the marketplace decide, let the people decide, because you'll be surprised. Sometimes the thing that you think is the thing is not the thing. So just put it out. None of us are smart enough to know what goes viral. We could only employ the tactics of what might work, but you don't know. So that's what I would say from a marketing point of view. Yeah. Until you're in the game, you're just a spectator. So. Yeah.
Anyone else want to chip in?
Okay. Now I was gonna say, do not despise these small beginnings. There you go. So I say that simply to kind of say, I'm big on serving, even at work, I came in as an expert. They hired me simply because I was an expert, but they didn't throw me. I wasn't now the star of the show. The moment I walked in, I had to serve. Even though when I met my line manager, I was just like, bruv, I don't know how to work a camera. But that's not what I needed to learn from him. He's hired me to patch up his weaknesses, right? But his strengths were in government comms. He had the language, I didn't. I'd never worked in government comms. So I say all that to kind of say, serve someone else in the industry you're trying to get yourself into. So if you're, I don't know, trying to get into cooking videos, for example, funny I say that, that's how I started. And I reached out to the food blogger back then. And story for another day. But it made me realize quickly that this wasn't actually the path that I wanted to go on. wedding films found me. I didn't find wedding films. In fact, I wanted to be an accountant in Canary Wharf, different direction, but I have a degree in films. How interesting that is, right? I say all that to kind of say I went searching, serving others, and literally my first viral wedding videos is what paved way to what CA became. But I shot one random wedding being a guest and I had a camera. I was just serving. And that video went viral. I was not the official videographer, but my content that I provided literally was added to the official videographer's wedding video. That's what created me in the sense that they loved all the fancy bits, but they were like, oh, it was nice to hear you during the wedding prep. That's so intimate. Like, we could hear your thoughts. And I just thought, okay, then the phone never stopped ringing. So I say all that to kind of give an example of what serving does. It's just serving others. You never know, where that will take you. So serve.
I would say always remember that every expert was once an amateur. So everyone has a beginning. And I would say you have to kind of redefine what success means to you. So say, for example, you've been battling with content for months, for years, like you're scared to put yourself out there, you're scared to even create. So maybe your even hurdle is just creating. So the fact that if you now set yourself a goal, set yourself a challenge and say, you know what, I'm going to be consistent with this creating and I'm going to show up no matter what the results are, that in itself is a success. And even now, if I was to speak to, as we're here as Christians, it's like, if God has given you a vision, what success looks like is obedience. So it's not really the performance of it. It's like purpose first and then, purpose over performance. So I think I'll also add and say that just like what my sis said here in terms of don't despise the humble beginnings. You might have 100 followers. That's your test group. That's where you use that season to redefine your voice, sharpen your creativity, test and measure. That's one of my key things I live by, test and measure. I do that with all my clients. All the stuff I know, like all the stuff I know that works is just because I wasn't scared to test and measure. So when you're posting, you get data, and when you have data, you have direction. So you just got to keep showing up.
Amazing. Okay, and anyone can answer this. This will be the last question before we go into some scenarios. How do you balance strategy with also being spirit-led when promoting your business or services?
Goes back to my first point. If you identify as a born-again child of God and you take your relationship with God seriously, He will guide you through the Holy Spirit will guide you. He'll whisper things in your ear. You might say, oh, try this, send that email, try posting at this time, do that. There's so many examples in my life where I'm like, I know I didn't think of that. I just had an inkling and I did it. And because remember, we're not like the world, right? So we're literally being guided by the Holy Spirit. So this is why your personal time with God is important, so that you get familiar with that voice. And after a while, it's like, this is definitely God, because you start to recognize it more and more, and he'll nudge you in little ways. And this is why I say don't just get in the game, because sometimes he'll say do something and you're there now delaying, like, oh, I haven't got this, I can't do this, and it's like, no, try it. You never know what's going to happen, right? So I would say it goes back to your personal walk with God. On top of that, because that's the foundation, on top of that, do your research, learn about different strategies of how to market something, how to build an audience. The information's already out there. There's nothing we can't access. We now have even ChatGPT now, so it's like there's so much information. So technically, everyone should be more successful, but the problem is everyone's busy overanalyzing. So stop thinking you need to know the end result. Just use the principles. The principles lead to the results. You sitting there thinking about if this is going to work or not doesn't do anything. You need to, as long as you're abiding by the principles, it tells you what's going to happen. You reap, you sow, you plant, there'll be harvest. So you want the harvest, but are you planting? You're worrying about the harvest, but you're not planting. So you need to just go back to basics, keep it simple. But if as believers in the world, we operate by the Spirit, so we have to have, it always goes back to that personal relationship with God. Outside of that, you're just winging it. Do you know what I mean? So make sure you're doing that and then trust that God, I have my personal relationship with you. I'm now dependent on you to guide me. That's it. And then with wisdom as well, use all the other strategies that are available in the world and all the tools and all that stuff. Don't do it the other way around. Don't try to use the tools, then have God in the back. Have your personal relationship with God, add the tools on top. Yeah? So that's the spiritual and the natural at the same time. If you neglect one, you're going to have problems. So that's what I would say in regards to strategy and being spirit-led.
Yeah, very good. Anything else? If not, it's okay. Okay.
Sorry, the questions.
Strategy versus being spirit-led when promoting your business and services.
Got you. Sorry, I just left my mind. 1 second. Yes. Okay. A few scriptures came to my head. Faith without works is dead. But another thing is planning. Planning is not bad. It says, another scripture says, write down the vision, make it plain. But I would say don't idolize it. So hold it loosely. So you can plan, you can write down your vision, but hold it loosely, which allowing room for divine intervention and promptings, and where the Holy Spirit might tell you to adjust here or go there. So you can definitely plan, get to work, apply. If you have faith that you should go and do something, you have to apply the work. The work has to follow with it, or it's a dead faith. And then I'll just say, just allow room for the Holy Spirit to prompt you, and I'll just say that strategy is a tool, but the Holy Spirit is like a compass. So,
Really good, really good. Okay, so I've got some scenarios that I'm gonna read out, and then you guys can kind of give advice to this hypothetical person who could be sitting in the audience today. And then after that, you guys will have the opportunity to ask questions, so please start thinking about what you're gonna ask. Okay, so a junior creative is working with you, and they seem very talented, but they lack confidence. They second guess their shots and hesitate to suggest ideas as a result. What practical steps would you take to encourage them, to train them, and to affirm them in their gifting and their spiritual identity?
First thing that jumps to me is speak life. That is something that life was spoken a lot, speaking to the audience. Life, I'm privileged to have mentors who continually spoke life over me. You know, within the creative space, even so the mentors I had were not necessarily creatives, but they continually spoke life over me. They saw my strengths, but I didn't see them. So them reminding me of who I am in God was super important. So if I had a young person who didn't have confidence, what I will do is to focus on that grey area of why do you not have confidence? So I would want to get the answer from them. So my thing would always be to dig. So why? How? Why? How? Can you? You know, but that's a therapist in me. But yeah, speak life. So if you're someone who doesn't have confidence, find someone who can speak life over you. It makes a huge difference.
Amazing. Right, great. One more scenario. So a videographer lands a contract with a major brand. It's not a Christian brand, but it is a huge opportunity that she really wants to take. She wants to do excellent work and stay true to her faith, but she does not want to seem too churchy or water down her convictions. How should a believer navigate this type of tension in the marketplace without compromising their assignment?
So I work with brands that are not Christian all the time. And it goes back, we was having a conversation over there. What are they asking you to do? If they're not asking you to compromise who you are, it's just business. You know, you've got a gift. They need that gift. It's your duty to serve them in that regard. And this is why it goes back to that personal standard. Serve them to a godly standard. Like, even go above and beyond, within reason. Obviously, you don't want to, but you go above and beyond. Serve them as if, like, you. I always say this, when someone works with me, I always want them to say, it was a pleasure to work with you. That's what I would say. So I want to make their life so easy. You come in, you serve them so well. It's like, wow, like, that was nothing like anything I've seen before. Because then you've got a client for life, pretty much. And then they'll recommend you, and a lot of this is about recommendations, word of mouth, all that stuff. So this is why your character's important, because London's small, the world is getting smaller, and you don't want to be a waste man. Do you know what I mean? Like, you want to do the job to a good standard. So it goes back to that personal brand of, is that client asking you to do something that compromises your faith? No. Perfect. Let's talk. Do you know what I mean? And do you believe you can even deliver the service that they're asking for? That's what I would say is how I judge those things. Because we have to engage with the world.
Absolutely.
We're in the world, not of the world. So we can't ignore, I can't go around saying I only want to work with Christian companies. Some of us in here work for companies that aren't Christian anyway. Yeah. They pay you. So that money is not Christian money, but you're taking it. So, do you get what I mean? We have to be realistic as well. So, there you go.
Can I ask you a question though?
Me?
Yeah. Now, if there was a scenario where it does blatantly conflicts your faith, how will you challenge it? Will you just say, well, this is not in line with my Christian faith, so no contract? Or how will you challenge that?
I guess it depends what that conflict is, but I'll just not do it. So, no, this is not for me.
Yeah.
That simple. I don't even, if it's a red line, I don't even have I just, you know what? Unfortunately, I won't be able to be involved in this.
Yeah.
Simple
And I think
as
there's power in that, because sometimes people have that conflict of, but I need the money. And what do you do then?
Well,
or I need the exposure. What do you do then? So it really, you have to pick at that point.
Can I caveat that for a second though? Yeah. What if that was also an opportunity for you to educate? But then we're quick to look at it through the lens of, well, that's not in line with my Christian faith, so I'm just not going to take it on. What if it's an opportunity for like you to actually change their systems, and you've got the tool, but you've chosen to walk away?
That's a valid question. I often get that with actors. So sometimes I work with actors, they're like, oh, what if I get this scene, I get this role in a film, and it's a great opportunity, but it's a sex scene. It depends on what the thing is that you're being asked to compromise on. So if you're an actor and you get asked to do a sex scene, should you do it? They're offering you £500,000 to do it. Should you do it? I think we all kind of know. Yeah. I can go in there saying, I'm going to educate you on how to do the sex scene in a way that isn't... Now I'm trying to I'm trying to sugarcoat the thing. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So let's not. It depends. That's what I say. It depends, right? So it depends. So I would say just be careful with that. Some things are better off. Just run away from it. Don't even try and engage, because these industries, remember, it's not just flesh and blood. Do you get what I'm saying? So sometimes they'll lure you in with a little bit of bait.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you're doing things you thought you wouldn't be doing. I've seen it. So it's one of those things where you have to have hard lines. You have to, and that's okay. Do you get me? Don't feel, and turn this stone into bread. You're hungry.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying, man? So we have to think like that. Like, there will be temptations, but if you don't have, this is why it goes back to your personal relationship with God. If you don't have those lines drawn, you will compromise. And it's all right, God will forgive you. Fine, you made a mistake, but you have to really get that, especially in media, because especially when you're putting things out. I always talk to actors about this, because they're in the most conflicting situations sometimes. You're an actor, your role might have nothing to do with the madness that's happening. And you might have one scene in that film, and that film's about something that's clearly against your faith. your scene has nothing to do with it, should you still take the scene? That's a very, I understand, and they're offering me good money. So, and there'll be other scenarios in life where you have to make those decisions, but you need discernment, and you only get that through your personal relationship with God. So it goes back to that, as always.
I think also being around like-minded people, so like this community that's being offered here as well, you could put that in the chat and say, guys, this is what's happening. What do you think I should do? Yeah. And get guidance from there as well. Amazing. Okay, so I'm going to open the floor for some questions. Who has a question? Just pop your hand up and I will pick you. Don't be shy. Any questions? No. Okay, go. Oh, wow. All at once. Winnie, go for it.
We talk about storytelling. I don't think any of you really said storytelling in this way, but I find on social media, I think someone mentioned everyone's turning everything into a story. And how should people use storytelling intentionally where it's not like just oversharing online, or building a community where maybe it then becomes like trauma bonding and really leading back to the brand and not just sharing everything for the sake of trying to stay relevant? And I think because people like stories on social media, it is very easy to just try and tell more stories to keep the engagement going. So how do you not fall into that trap?
That's a good question. Very good question. I think I've been butchering names. Is it Tucci? She mentioned she was dropping so many gems today. She mentioned something in terms of like she doesn't overshare. I think in terms of what I do and when I'm coaching people, I know how powerful vulnerability is. Yeah. But if it's not intentional, it just becomes oversharing. Okay. Because if you intentionally use vulnerability to open something up for someone's life to lead them into, maybe healing or a revelation or something that really touches them and changes them, then you've done your work, you've used it the right way. But if it's not intentional, then you don't have to fall into that trap of oversharing. But I would also say, sorry, just give me one sec. I also say that, what's the other part of your question, sorry?
Basically saying how people buy into stories, so people buy into vulnerability. So if you aren't being vulnerable, people aren't engaging in your content. So it's hard to kind of trying to use your vulnerability to build connections, but then not then falling into a trap of just oversharing to keep that engagement. Yeah,
I think it varies depending on what your message is, because not everything that everyone is sharing is personal to them. It's like going back to what we were saying earlier about in terms of serving. Lead with serving others, but service could be it could be educating. Are you inspiring? Are you entertaining? There's many reasons why people will follow you or gravitate towards you. It starts with this making sure that your message is clear and being consistent with that message, and it doesn't need to be you don't need to complicate it. And sometimes when you're starting out, you can talk on one topic, just talk on one thing very well, and then you can expand later on. But sometimes people think repetition is bad, but actually people want to know what they're coming for you for. And as long as you're consistent with your message and that, then the people you're speaking to will naturally gravitate towards you, and your following will grow.
Anyone else had a question?
You were talking earlier about not being sure about followers and everything. Would you say that when you first put out content, would you say a good strategy is just to be consistent to put out content, because your audience, your following, your demographic are going to naturally flock to you anyways, if that makes sense?
Can you reword it? I don't.
So would you say a good strategy for someone who's just starting out and is like kind of worried about what's it called, numbers or the demographic or the type or their audience basically in general, would you say a good strategy is just to put out the content anyways because your type of audience will come out eventually, if that makes sense?
Yes, consistency. Ultimately, all right. So if you want to get in shape, how many times should you go to the gym? In general, how often?
You should go like 3-4 times, but you should go often, if that makes sense.
So you should go consistently.
Yeah,
Should you go 7 times a week?
you can, but if you're not consistent, then
Can you go? Can you go 5 times a week?
Yeah,
Can you go once a week?
yeah.
So it depends, right? It depends on you and your lifestyle and what your goal is, right? So it's the same. That's how I approach it. If you've got the time to be putting out a video like every day, do that. You might be a mum, you might be a dad, you might be working 9 to 5, da da da. You might only be able to do it once a week. Do that. At least once a week is the bare minimum. That's like bare minimum. Because after one is 0. So we don't want to be at 0. Once a week is the starting point, bare minimum. Build up from there. You might have more time. You maybe can move your schedule around. Because we live real lives as well. Not everyone's a full-time content creator, do you know what I mean? So find pockets of time where you can record. And I think someone was saying it earlier, maybe it was Esther, where you can batch record. If you've got one day, try and get maybe don't overdo it, but at least 3 videos you film in a day, that would be amazing. And then if you're putting it out once a week, that's 3 weeks. So if you think of it like that, and if you've got more time and you can do more, even better. Because then you're able to pre-record, so you don't need to feel like you pressure to record every week. So that's a strategy of how to like be consistent. But it all depends on your setup and your lifestyle and how you're doing. But there's no excuse to not be doing it at least once a week. That's what I would say to that.
Hi everyone. Thank you for everything you've been sharing. So the question I had was, apart from attending amazing events like this, would you say that, I think Marv, you said that you do you content strategy, you help content creators. Would you say that everybody needs that? And if they did need it, like what part in their journey would they need something like that in regards to coming under someone to help them strategize or mentorship in content creation or branding or marketing?
Since I got the mic, I'll start. Again, I'm very much going back to the individual. You can have a content strategist, you can have a personal trainer, you can have a mentor. If you don't do the work, it doesn't matter. Just start there. So you have to know, even if I get a content strategist, even if I get all these things, even if I get all this information, I have to show up. They are not going to show up for you. So the reason I'm stressing this point, because sometimes we can waste time taking in so much information. I didn't know all the answers. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to none of that. I just wanted to do it, and I did it. It was messy. And over time, I've refined it. Do you know what I mean? So yes, those things are good. But back to you. Can you put out this content as often as possible, at least once a week? Depending on what it is, obviously, not every, but what I'm saying is individual responsibility, accountability. The coach or the mentor can only do so much. They're giving you information, they're giving you tips, but if you're not committed, it means nothing. Do you get what I'm saying? So I'm stressing that so much because we can go to all these webinars, all these things, and you still haven't put nothing out. So let's not just be hearers. Yeah? So that's what I would just say to that.
Hey guys. So it's like a 2-in-1 question. So I wanted to know, how have you guys managed to stay relevant in your craft? Because I know you guys have been doing it for a minute. Have you managed to stay on top of your game? And if you could share, second one is if you could share a moment where you was challenging for you and you almost gave up but did it, that would be great.
I want a moment to think. So, do you want to go first? Yeah.
I think how you stay relevant. The fact of the matter is, you have to earn attention. I think attention is one of the strongest currency online, and sometimes when you lack consistency, you've lost the attention, and you have to sometimes build it back up. I think for myself, what has been my saving grace, because I'm not always consistent in terms of showing up. Sometimes I have taken breaks, and sometimes because I work with a lot of people behind the scenes, I tend to sometimes stay behind the scenes and just I release videos every day, but just not from my page. It actually goes out through different people's channels, so I actually get to live vicariously through people. However, to stay relevant for me, what has been my saving grace is just the excellence I put into my work and the consistency of the standard I keep. And I think I do that to honor my gift, to honor God, and honor my audience as well. And so I steward that gift I have and make sure that I'm always improving. I live by a motto. This is a motto I live by for many years, and my motto is I'm only as good as my last video. And that mindset helps me to constantly desire to improve and bring another level of excellence and take things to another bar, because then that is what's allowed me to stay relevant, where it's not that my work has fallen off. My standard has been there, but sometimes even over time, there's new technology and new stuff. My standard even improves. And to answer your second question, there's been many times I've felt like giving up, especially in wedding films. As my sis will know, in the wedding film, if you're a filmmaker, it is very challenging, very, very challenging. And it's challenging because it's very busy, and there's parts you do like and parts you don't like. And sometimes the strenuous or long part can be the post-production, because it's long form. You know, we're here, a lot of people are talking about and are into short form. When you're dealing with long form, it's a real battle. It takes a real strength to even get started on work. And what can tend to happen is a backlog can create. And once you have a backlog, you feel overwhelmed. And then sometimes you're missing deadlines, and then you're having to deal with putting out fires and speaking to clients and dealing with upset. And in life, you make a lot of you make mistakes, you learn. You live and learn, and that's the same in business. And there's been many times when I felt like, is this really worth it? Like, is it really worth it? And so I do resonate with that. I have wanted to just pack in the wedding film altogether at a certain point, but then I think for me, sometimes I get random messages. It's like, oh, Marv, I miss you. And when I do post something, it's like, this is why XYZ, when I get married, I've already made up on my mind from time ago, you're going to be my videographer and stuff. And that's, maybe sometimes it's just that message that keeps me just ticking on, because, likes and comments it's all cute and stuff. But when you get comments where it's impactful and people are inspired, and we had a conversation earlier when you said, it's because of you I did X, Y, that's legacy, that's impact. So what keeps me going and keeps me relevant is the impact I make out online.
Good.
I had a few questions. I wanted to ask, and I know you've mentioned perfection and excellence, but I wanted to ask each of you guys, like, how do you strike a balance between perfection and excellence? Like, what does that actually look like for you guys?
You got the mic, guys.
Like, is there like a checklist? Like, if I check this and everything else isn't what it is, I've done good. That's what is that? Yeah.
I suppose the question you need to ask yourself is, what is your process in your business or brand? So if you have a process, like, and then your business has this kind of like checklists, and you've met them, and you have capacity and time, can you then look for room for growth in that? So before you put the content out and you've got 2 weeks left, rather than just putting it out because you're on time, is, what can I do more to make this better? I can't think of a live personal experience right now, but I could pass it to one of the guys. Maybe they can.
No, I think I can put it in simple terms for you in terms of the balance. It's like, if, for example, you wanted to spend more time to work on something, is it going to make the work better, or are you just being a perfectionist? And sometimes, because even when I'm doing editing films and stuff, sometimes better is worth the wait in terms of like working on it. However, you have to ask yourself, am I just scared? Am I just fearful? And that's fearful of rejection and fearful of opinions. Sometimes people don't release stuff. It's because they don't want to face what people might say. They can't take comments, they can't take feedback. But all that stuff is all a part of it. It's all a part of content. You can't get away from that. You might not be able to please everyone's. There will be 9 fantastic comments and 1 comment that might rub you the wrong way. And that's just how it is. So you kind of have to kind of just gauge in terms of where the work is in terms of excellence. Excellence is intentional. It's leading with intention that, okay, cool, I want there to be a certain standard. So what I do, I quality check my work. I make sure that the grade is consistent, the sound, the audio is clean and stuff like that. That's paying attention to the details, because I'm giving the best. I'm serving others, or serving my clients, or even serving your audience, making sure that you put good work out there. But once it's good, now what's the block? Is it just that you're being a perfectionism, which is just fear disguised as productivity? You think you're being productive, but you're just underneath. It's an underlining of fear. And that's just, it all comes down to what I was talking about earlier in terms of fear, scared of opinions and scared of rejection. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Oh. I wasn't done. Sorry, I wasn't done with my questions. Yeah. I don't know if everyone works with creators, but I know Marv, you work with creators, and I wanted to ask you, with your experience working with creators, what makes your clients like unique in the way that you work with them individually, and how do you support their individuality in a world full of noise? Because it's such an echo chamber of like content. But for each of your clients that are creators that you work with, how do you support their individuality, and how do you cut through that noise on social media?
Okay. I think for me, I have to be honest, it goes back to storytelling. I've seen a lot of ground being made, a lot of views and a lot of impact being made through telling my clients' stories. And that's something that no one can take away from you, because it's unique to you, it's authentic to you. But also, if you're creating a brand and you want to grow, I would say when it starts to become not just about your life, but what it opens up to other people's life, that's when you're making a bigger impact. And what I mean by that is that you're solving real problems, so that your story brings people in, but your solutions is what kind of keeps them there. I believe you yourself, you create content that encourages people to how they can create a relationship with God, right? And so that's something that's now you're giving value. It's now just not it's not just vibes or just all about you, but now you're giving substance, valuable content that people can save, they can share, they can be impacted by. So when you start seeing messages like, oh, I really needed that, that's when you know it's really working. Those sort of stuff, impactful comments. When someone says like, oh, fire and all that, yeah, that's all cool. But when someone says like, oh, I needed to hear this and stuff like that, that's when you're really making that impact and cutting through the noise. And the thing is, you don't need to, as long as you're impacting somebody, like you've done your job. So sometimes it's like, it's not really, we think about the numbers and the viral, but there's a community of people that you are personally impacting that others are not able to reach because you have a personal message for them.
Answer that question through a different lens as well, if that's okay. So I don't work with content creators. I work with world leaders in the sense of I don't get to sit in a room with them to hear their thoughts or their feedback, but I need to understand what is their policy and what's their end goal. So, for example, when I followed, she's not popular, Kemi Badenoch, I was her personal videographer when she was, Secretary of State for Business and Trade, and we knew that okay, she's not popular, but we knew where she wanted to get to before everyone else, the world, found out. So my job was to capture her through that lens of her future. Does that make sense? So I needed to be on job. So I can't capture her when she's upset. The camera needs to be visibly down. It's just understanding your personality that you're working with and what their ultimate end goal is and what message they're trying to put out. So for example, when I worked with Rishi Sunak, his thing was he doesn't want to be seen, even though he's a very small man, he doesn't want to be seen small. So how you captured him, how you filmed or photographed him, photographed him was so crucial through the angle. I never heard his feedback, but if the content is put out, it means you did a great job. So it's just, I suppose, understanding the end goal of the individuals that you're working with, no matter what scale or level that they're in life, just knowing what is their vision and then working with that.
Betty, have a question? This one question here.
Thank you so much. I had a couple questions which I wrote down, and one of them was, one of you guys mentioned earlier about essentially the post-production process can be quite long, where it can get to the point where it can get overwhelming, and then you kind of just start to get a backlog or just work that you have, and it can be difficult to kind of explain to the client, and you just kind of behind the deadlines essentially. How do you go about managing that, especially when you're just a one person working by yourself?
So that I can relate to very much, because especially when you're kind of at the early stages, or as you progress, you start saying yes to different things and you underestimate your output. So it got to the point where I just started saying no. That was it. I was like, or passing it on to someone else. So if I can't do it, I'd recommend it on someone else. But I'm at the stage now where putting systems into place, like relationship with editors, so external editors where I'm not editing everything. Or, just different, building out a team basically, so you can start to now distribute that work. And that's how you ultimately build a company. So it starts with you. Once that work starts to become a bit overbearing, if you're able to charge a little bit more as well, so that you can start paying people, delegating things out, that's how you solve that. If you can't do that, you just say no, or not now, my hands are a bit full. And if they really want you, they'll come back to you. I've built relationships with people where they're willing to wait for a long time until they can work with me. I've literally had to have those phone calls recently. I was like, listen, bro, I can't help you on this right now. I need to focus on this. And the reason I'm saying that is because I don't want to serve you at 50%. I want to work with you and give you 100%. So that I'm fair to you and myself, I'd rather us not work right now so that I can actually do something. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So it's a mistake a lot of creators fall into where we take on so much and then we're burnt out but you have to quickly learn from that and quickly adjust so that you can keep good relationships with people and also just for your own mental health, you know, so.
Can I add to that? Yeah. If you're already in the situation, just reach out to your client and just be honest with where you are with them and just say, you know, we have a new proposed deadline date. I know we envisioned yesterday, but maybe in 2 weeks' time. And just be honest and just transparent with your clients where you are. Usually they're understanding, and if they're not, you can resolve it, but just don't ghost your clients. That's what a lot of creatives do, is just ghost. And then the clients chasing you, calling you out on socials, just, what's the point? Just reach out. And that's something that I think within CA I did really well. If we've missed our 24 weeks deadline, I reach out. You know, we've just got so much backlogs. We're sorry, be apologetic. Just be kind in the process as well. There's no need for attitude or arrogance, and which a lot of creatives have too. So just putting it out there.
Thank you. And the second question I had was, you also mentioned building a team. How do you go about building an effective team? Whereas not many of them actually know what they're doing. They don't know much about media essentially, but they want to learn about media. But you also still have to focus on yourself. So I don't know if my question is making sense.
Yeah, building a team's been hard, still hard, because especially when you're a one-man band and you do everything and the client's coming to you and they want you, ultimately you have to get them to trust someone else, but they're trusting them based on your word and the relationship you've built with them. Some people might come in, they've never worked with you, so they don't know your setup. So that's different because you can just do whatever. But if it's people you've worked with previously and they want you specifically, through conversations, again, it's being honest, being like, listen, things are changing, things are growing. This is how we're operating right now. Do you know what I mean? And if the trust you've built, they'll trust you. The people themselves you find to work with you, that has happened over time. Along the way, you meet people, and then you just try them out with little things. But ultimately, if you're the CEO, you have to be the one with the highest standard, because when they come in, they're going to copy what you're doing. So if they see that you're slack and you're you know what I mean? So if you set your standards high, you'll find the people that align with you. And sometimes it could just be one person that makes a massive difference. You might just need one person, you know? As they say, one can chase 1,000, two can set 10,000. So it's that kind of thing. Sometimes, and then over time, you just keep an eye out for people. And then you'll be like, hey, maybe get them to shadow you, maybe give them a little bit of work to see how they do with that. You know, look at their character. Do they have manners? Do they show up on time? Are they professional? Do they communicate well? It goes back to these personal characteristics as well. And then you can start to be, all right, cool, look, I'm building this thing. You know, can you help me out sometimes on a project? I might be able to throw you over an edit. You might be able to assist me in filming. It's just about how you communicate and relate with them. So, but I would say keep an eye out for people along the way, and be honest with your clients as well. Be like, look, we're going to transition now, or we're going to do this, and then it should be fine.
Thank you. And how do you, so one thing I do a lot essentially is I do quite a bit of ministry work as well essentially, but then it also ends up in, I do quite a lot of ministry work as well, so like for my church, for example, but then it builds up quite a lot, whereas I can't pick up actual pay clients, for example. So how can I balance that, whereas I'm earning income, but still doing the work that I want to for my ministry, because that's my priority at the end of the day.
Set your personal boundaries. Just because it's ministry, it doesn't mean that it should take over your whole life. That's what I say. You can still serve, but be realistic. You don't want to burn yourself out. This is what I can commit to. This is what I can't commit to.
Thank you.
Can I add to the staffing scenario, the previous question? I basically, from day one, I hired people that were better than me. So if I see someone and their work is good and they're better than me, can we be friends? You know, that was my thing, and that's what thing I did really well. And with the 18 team members that we worked with over time with different skills, Morel was part of the team at one point, you know, doing VA for us, and Esther's worked with us as well recently. So the whole point is just it doesn't matter if they're above or below. The whole point is, what are you trying to get out of them? It's their knowledge. You can learn from everyone and anyone. Top tip, hire from people better than you and seek talent from Africa as well. I'm always pushing, please hire people. There are creatives are sick in Nigeria. I'm always pushing for them as well. And yeah, just reach out beyond your direct access, I suppose. Yeah.
Thank you. One last question, sorry. Let's say you have like an idea that you just have like a random idea about something that you want to create, but you don't know where to start. How would you suggest going about that?
ChatGPT. No, but in all seriousness, there's a lot of tools online. Search it on YouTube, and you'll get a lot of inspiration. Even they have topics on everything nowadays. So if you had an idea on how do I do a music video, you can search this. How do I film XYZ a wedding? They have videos on everything, and also in all seriousness, you can use. This is what I use now as well. You can use ChatGPT to actually give you a breakdown. This is what I want to do. Give me a breakdown process of how I can learn this, or where do I start. It will give you a whole detailed breakdown, and it's a starting point. So even if you see something like, oh, I didn't think of this, then you can actually ask someone, oh, I know someone who does this, and I can now you know the terminology of what you're looking for. Sometimes when you don't know nothing or know where to start, sometimes you just need to understand the process to get there. So once you see the process, then you'll be able to work out like where you need to go and what you need to do next. But yeah, test it out. It works.
Thank you.
The lady in the brown.
So this is for social media. How do you ensure that you're not just putting out nice looking content, but that it actually generates leads or sales, depending on what it is that you're using social media for?
Is this specifically to attract clients?
Yes.
I guess there's multiple ways, but putting the work out. So let's say you provide wedding video services. Let's use that as an example. The first thing is putting the work out, building a portfolio on your page so people can actually see what you do. That's one way. So people obviously will, as soon, like I said earlier, you say you do this thing, I land on your page, I'm not really seeing, it's not adding up, that's one. And it depends if it's your personal page or if you're building a business page, because that's different as well.
So if it's for a business page, for example.
Yeah, so the strategy will be different, kind of similar, but different with a business page as well. And it depends on, there's multiple ways. So you can go down the route of, I don't know if you've seen loads of companies now are getting this organic looking content, they're getting their staff members. Curry's is one that I saw, and EasyJet, they have like their staff doing organic looking content so they can build more like a authentic relationship. So that's a strategy in that way. Obviously running ads, you can run ads and all that kind of stuff. So it depends who the client is, what you're trying to achieve, but you can employ multiple different strategies at the same time. I always say it's still good to just have a constant flow of organic or evergreen, meaning it's always relevant, like, content that can be discovered that's relating to your business. But then again, it depends on the business, depends, because it might be different for every type of business. That's what I would say.
Can I ask what you sell or what your business is?
I'm a tutor.
Tutor,
Yeah.
okay. So when it comes to anything when it comes to sales and like putting out stuff that's just not pretty, but that is converting, you have to remember that people buy transformation. They don't just buy product. So you can actually speak about that. And when you're creating content, think about the transformation. So focus on that. So say, for example, an easy one is like a PT. If PT was talking about, oh, they was working with a client, and the client's talking about how now I can play with my children. I wasn't able to do this before. I feel I have more energy. I'm not falling asleep at work, and I enjoy walking now and stuff like that. That's a total lifestyle change and transformation. It's not just this is what you're gonna get, because what makes people buy is that transformation. They're gravitated towards that experience, that feeling that they're gonna feel. So start from there, and then kind of reverse engineer and you can create content like that.
Can I add to that? Sorry, specific to your industry, resort season's coming out, right? I'm sure you've treated primary school. Okay, so you might have done year 6 that did SATs. Results will come out soon, right? So opportunity, you don't need the students, you just need evidence from maybe a couple of the parents, testimonials, do you see what I mean? Like from a couple of the parents to just put out there to say, oh look, 80% data is, do you know what I mean? 80% pass mark, I worked with this school, blah, 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 I don't know. It's just look at the seasons of the time and match that, and then September is gonna come, new cohorts, so yeah.
Amazing, I think that rounds it up.
So yeah, hi guys.
Hello.
Bless you all. I just wanted to get something from you all personally, because I think I can appreciate you all. I'm sure everyone here appreciates you for your insight and everything that you've contributed to this event. I would like to hear from each of you, if that's possible, just one thing that seems small from the outside. So from us looking at you, something that's small to us, but to you, it had a big impact in how you do things in your fields. So like a small nugget that like, okay, this meant so much to me. It might look like something small from the outside, but this is how it inspired me, or this is how it motivated me during the course of my experiences.
Where do you want to start? Anyone? Okay, I know I've been dropping names all day, I apologize guys, that's not really but it's just to give impact, if that makes sense. But the week before I quit CA, one thing happened. If I still quit, I use the word quit, we're pivoted, yeah? We just walked away for real, we're pivoted. But before I pivoted from CA, something happened that could have kept me in. But I was so laser focused that it was time to move on to the next, right? So what happened was my highest paying ever, like my last booking was the highest in my 15 years career for a 4-hour job for, basically, I'll just put it out there, Idris Elba's mom was her 75th birthday, and his team reached out, and I was just like, right, there's bare people, you've got a production company, why are you coming to us? That was all the things that was running through my mind, but they had a contact in-house that literally just, we worked with before, loved how we treated them, they trusted that we would honor the NDAs, whatever we were signing, and we were not gonna take advantage of the fact that it was going to be Idris Elba. So when the email came, I deleted it. I was just like, yeah, I'm getting scammed. Then they called, they keep calling. I was thinking, nah, this is such a scam, And then I rang everyone. I was just like, oh my God, like when I say I rang everyone, I rang my brother, who's a lawyer. I was just like, bro, like, basically the team coached me on Idris's team, what to charge, because I just put my standard wedding, not even wedding, birthday charge, £1,000. They were like, anyway, they told me what to charge. They told me, how to work out the contracts and all of that. And it was the most scary, daunting, but easiest job I've ever done. And it was the last job that I did, and that could have kept me in because it was just like, whoa, I've made all this money for such a simple job that I edited it overnight, delivered the next day. That's how, do you know what I mean? Quick. But it was just a nice way to say what you've done. It's like a nice goodbye, like what you've done. I see you kind of thing. But it is okay to move on and not be stuck. So that is one little, well, it's not little, big deal thing that happened. But yeah, that really helped me.
Is this the question relating to at any point in my journey? For me, the one, it's kind of funny. So I left college, I did business in sixth form, and then I left. And then I went straight into filming and stuff. And the one moment that stood out the most to me was when I was able to put £20 on the electric at home for my dad. Because he didn't know what I was gonna do. He didn't understand all this stuff. But then the day I was able to say, Dad, I got paid from a job. It was only like £50 I got paid, you know. But then I was able to say, that's £20 on the electric, you get me? So for me, and I was like, what, 17? For me, I'll always remember that because it just validated that I'm not crazy, like I know what I'm doing. And it's not that he was against it, but it was just, you know when you say you're gonna do something, and then, especially with your parents, and then you come back and say, look, I've done something. And that was only £20, you know what I mean? But for me, that showed me that this can work. If I can make £20, I can make £1 million, you know what I'm saying? So there's something here. So that was the most, for me, a memorable moment of like, that kind of carries me through, and it just reminds me of like, you made the right decision to go down this path. So, yeah.
I think, for me, I think we mentioned it earlier, sometimes it can just take one video and it can change everything. I've had 2 videos, but if I'm thinking about in the wedding, when I first started the wedding film, there was one wedding, I felt like it was the first wedding to ever go viral, crazy viral. It touched America, it had over 1 million views on YouTube, and it was a couple called Quason at the time, and Locked In Wedding, and that went crazy. It's like I feel like the whole culture shifted at that moment where weddings would just start to go viral for some reason, but I don't know if it was like it felt like one of the first weddings to hit 1 million views and stuff like that. But the reason why I bring up that is because I never really had much of a website or really was pushing myself out there. That became like a tap. I just had constant clients for years. It's kept me for years. And people would reach out to me and be like, yeah, I saw your wedding you did with Quason, I wanted to book you. So it's like, I didn't really have to, even though I should have, but I didn't have to market myself because clients were just rolling to me. So I mentioned that for the simple fact that it was just that grace that allowed that constant favor to just flood through to my email inbox and carry my business for years and years. And obviously, I released other videos and people would see other videos, but they were always, that was the kind of catalyst that caused that constant trickle. And still now to this day, I don't think the last wedding I posted was, the Cabs family. But yeah, I still get that. I still get inquiries every week. Every week I would say. At a time it was every day, but I say every week now. And it just reminds. That's what I was talking about in terms of the impact. It's the impact I've made that has allowed me to kind of stay and keep this business going, or I would have shut it down a long time. But yeah, so it's that impact from then that just reminds me of how powerful one video can be and how powerful, how God has graced me with that skill to storytell and evoke emotion.
Okay, so that rounds that up. Please celebrate them once again as they go back to their seats.
Awesome. Let's give them another round of applause, please. Wasn't that amazing, guys? Yeah? Just stretch a little bit, Don't worry, guys. I know